Resources, Ms. Fatima Milian. From the Bureau of DNR, Environmental Management Bureau of DNR, Mr. William Cunado. From the Department of Science and Technology, Director Enrico Paringit. From the Department of Interior and Local Government, Undersecretary Rico Judge Javier Echeverri. From the Department of Justice, State Counsel Dave Florence Fatalia. From the Department of Health, Engineer Maria Sonabel Anarna. From the UP Diliman Environmental Engineering, Dr. Annalisa Rolion. From the National Solid Waste Management Commission, Mr. Crispian Lau. From the Public-Private Partnership Center, Ms. Bea Quintos. From the IPM Group of Companies, Engineer Arturo Gungon. From the Developers of Renewable Energy for Advancement, DREAM, Attorney Jose Layog. From the Metro Pacific Investment Corporation, Mr. Jose Maria Madara. From the Union of Local Authorities, from the Office of the City Mayor of Quezon City, Mr. Vincent Binarao. From the Public-Private Partnership, Ms. Bea. From the Public-Private Partnership Center, Mr. Ferdinand Pexon, the Executive Director. From from No Burn Pilipinas, Mr. Glenn Imata. Attorney Tim.
Thank you so much, Attorney Grace. So we would just like to check with everyone if you received the email of our secretariat last night. We sent the bill form of the WTE bill last night, although we received further comments from MMDA and DILG. We received further comments from DILG last night, and then from MDA last night and from DILG this morning. So what we will be flashing on the screen includes MMDA's comments already, but since we received the comment of DILG only this morning, we would be asking the DILG representative to discuss it along the way. But I've marked the sections where DILG has a comment. So we would like to thank also all our stakeholders who submitted their position papers and researches on whether WT is a renewable energy resource. So we received a total of 10 additional position papers after our TWG last 9 June 2020. Okay, so uh, just like what we did last time, if you want to speak, please kindly introduce yourself so that we know who's speaking. So we will start with segregation, the definition for segregation. Since we stopped with the definition for sanitary landfill last time, we will start with the definition for segregation. For the rest of the definitions that we finished or which the stakeholders gave further comments on, the committee will take it into consideration. If we have time, we can go back to it. But right now, we will start with the definition for segregation. Okay? So segregation. Segregation refers, if we can request Jen to share the screen. Okay, segregation. Segregation refers to a solid waste management practice of separating different materials found in solid waste in order to promote recycling and reuse of resources and to reduce the volume of waste for collection and disposal. So this is the same definition as in Senate Bill 401 of Senator Tolentino. And this is also the same definition in RA 9003. Do you have comments on this definition?
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Good morning po. Pwede po
Yes,
bang
ma'am.
magbigay ng comments?
Yes,
Oo.
ma'am. Good morning po.
Dun sa segregation, dun sa parte na may kasamang ano yun, to reduce collection. Hindi po kaya, di ba pag nagsisegregate tayo, not necessarily na yung nire-reduce natin na collection ay yung collection lang papunta dun sa yung baga residual. Kasi pwede rin collection ng mga recyclable, collection ng mga renewable resources na pwedeng dalhin sa isang waste to energy facility. So, kaya iniisip ko baka hindi dapat ilagay na yung collection. Baka to reduce the volume of waste for final disposal. Kasi pwede din na yung kino-collect natin halimbawa, biodegradable na minsan iniiwan natin yun sa barangay level or pwede din kasi in the future maging collected siya for municipal or yung clustering din na ano, na collection.
Ma'am, yung this is actually the definition sa
Oo,
9003.
nakita ko nga siya gano'n, oo.
Yes po, I
Kaya di
think
ko lang
it's
alam kung ano yung tawag dito, ano yung, prinsipyo behind saying that segregation is for reduction of waste for collection. Kasi we can speak of collection from the uh, LGU level, barangay, municipal, or provincial. Ngayon kasi kung halimbawa meron kang isang fraction doon na dadalhin mo sa isang waste to energy facility na dedicated lang for that fraction, pwedeng collection pa rin ang ano dun eh, magkakaroon ka pa rin ng collection dun. So, hindi ko alam kung ano yung iniibig sabihin ng collection dito sa part na 'to.
ma'am, maybe we can ask DNR to comment on this, but based on this definition, I think, 'di ba, at the household level yung segregation. And then the
Oo,
household can actually have its own compost, and the household can also recycle on their own. So, yun po yung iniisip ko. But perhaps we can ask DNR or NSWMC po. Sir William or Sir
Yes,
Chris?
yes. Good morning, everyone. Uh, yes, ma'am. In terms of segregations, as we have already defined, it's a matter of how you segregate your garbage. So, if we have to follow definitely in terms of segregation in very specific activities, you will have to segregate the same type of garbage. For example, we want to segregate paper. So you put that
hmm,
the paper size. If you want to segregate carton, you segregate the carton. And if you want to segregate biodegradable, that's all for biodegradable. That is a very strict approach of doing the segregations. But unfortunately, it's not done in the household level.
mhm,
We put that in our definitions, but the implementations, sad to say, we just have only our limit of bio and non-biodegradable. If we want to be successful for this, because this is mostly done to be done by the household should also their discipline in observing the definitions of these segregations. For me, if the household, 90% of the household will observe the segregation approach, definitely we can dramatically reduce the volumes of our waste, and it could be go to the proper channeling of this waste. So, for example, in biodegradable, you have to compost it, use it for fertilizers as a composting. After you have composting, you can convert it as a soil conditioner and the other parts. So what happened now? We have a lot of mixed garbage that will be finally disposed to sanitary landfill. So and that's what happened based on some of my data. It will count out that there is no success in terms of segregation. Some of the area, not all. Some of the area that give us a data that this segregation approach is not much successful in some area, but there are some area also in some LGU who are also observing this. And these LGUs is dramatically reduce their volume of waste. So I think we have to put it properly. Who will be segregations in terms of the definition, because the household, this is the role of the household to do their part in terms of managing the garbage, especially in the residential area.
Yeah.
So, pwede pong nag-segregate yung household and then kino-collect yun as segregated waste or separated,
Yes,
nakasort, di ba? Oo.
yes, yes,
So,
yes, madam.
oo. So, ganun pa man, I think same amount yung kino-collect, naka-segregate nga lang. So, yun lang po yung point ko. Ah,
Yes,
oo.
Yes, Ma'am Annalisa,
yeah,
thank you po.
precisely.
Yes, sir po. Sir William?
Yes, that's what I'm emphasizing, that the segregation should be effectively implemented in at the source, not only in the household, and also for the commercial and industrial, because there are some waste, commercial or industrial, that this product could be diverted to some recycling facilities. So if the industrial will adapt with this approach, we can have a proper management of our garbage, and this will not end up to our sanitary landfill. Commercial area also, this also have a lot of things that will have a very good waste there that will be properly segregated, and it will end up to the second user. Plastics, if this will be properly segregated in commercial, this will end up to the plastic factory for recycling of that waste. So if we have to put it very strict definitions and give them who are the responsible of doing this segregation, especially at source, probably we can have a very dramatic improvements. And what we are going to do at the end of the day, those residual will be finally disposed or treated in the sanitary landfill if there is a sanitary landfill.
Right. Yeah. Thank you,
That's
Sir
all.
William. Yes, yes, Paul.
Madam Chair, thank you. With respect to the concern of Sir William as to the obligations of households, Section 10A will be better discussion point for that. But going back to the definition, I direct attention of the body to footnote 11. UPEEP actually gives a different definition of segregation. And I think Professor Annalisa's comment on uh, facility waste to energy process, or to carve out a particular use of segregation waste to energy, is at issue here. And so the NCSR gave a comment on June 1 as to, I think, something consonant to what UPEEP is stating in their submitted definition. So my question to the body is the definition given by UPEEP in footnote 11 better than what is stated here in subsection double B? Thank you.
I think the reason why we are adopting here the definition of segregation is, as what we've said in our earlier TWG. This bill is a supplement to RA 9003. We are not trying to change, I mean, the way the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act is phrased. So in terms of segregation here, the intent, when we refer to segregation here, we're referring to the segregation that's being practiced under RA 9003, unless we want to redefine, unless you want to redefine that. Perhaps you can hear from Sir Chris from NSWMC.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I think the principle of the law, actually, that's actually extracted. No? The definition in BB right now, as reflected, is a copy from the RA 9003. The question as to the mention of to reduce the volume of waste for collection and disposal, the ultimate objective of segregation is to reduce the amount of waste that needs to be collected by the city or the LGU for final disposal. So that is to respond the question of UP. That's how I would respond to it. What I would suggest is okay, to take in the recommendation of UP, but to tweak it or to amend it a little bit more. This is after our discussion in the Commission Technical Working Group. We propose to add, after reuse of resources in line 17, okay, facilitate waste treatment processes, right? And to reduce the volume of waste for collection and disposal pursuant to RE 9003. The comment of UPEEP is facilitate waste to energy processes, no? But then there's a lot more different alternatives than waste to energy. So we would recommend to use the phrase facilitate waste treatment processes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we have a new proposal from NSWMC, which also integrates to a certain extent the proposal of UP. So the proposed definition now reads: segregation refers to a solid waste management practice of separating different materials found in solid waste in order to promote recycling and reuse of resources, comma, facilitate waste treatment processes, comma, and to reduce the volume of waste for collection and disposal pursuant to RA 9003. Do you have further comments? Ma'am Annalisa, okay na po ba to? Ma'am Annalisa, okay na po?
Sorry.
Ma'am, I think nakamute po kayo. Ay.
Ah,
Ma'am, okay na po? UP,
okay na po. Okay na.
okay.
Sorry. Okay na po, okay.
Sige, okay. So our final definition for segregation is: segregation refers to a solid waste management practice of separating different materials found in solid waste in order to promote recycling and reuse of resources, facilitate waste treatment processes, and to reduce the volume of waste for collection and disposal pursuant to RA 9003. Okay, now let's move on to the definition for solid waste. So this definition is actually from RA 9003 again. Okay, so it reads: as solid waste refers to all discarded household, commercial waste, non-hazardous institutional and industrial waste, street sweepings, construction debris, agricultural waste, and other non-hazardous or non-toxic solid waste. It shall not include waste identified or listed as hazardous waste of a solid, liquid, contained, gaseous, or semi-solid form, which may cause or contribute to an increase in mortality or in serious or incapacitating reversible illness or acute or chronic effect on the health of persons and other organisms. Infectious waste from hospitals, such as equipment, instruments, utensils, and fomites of a disposable nature from patients who are suspected to have or have been diagnosed as having communicable diseases and must therefore be isolated as required by public health agencies, laboratory waste as pathological specimens, and disposable fomites that may harbor or transmit pathogenic organisms, and surgical operating room pathologic materials from outpatient areas and emergency rooms, and waste resulting from mining activities, including contaminated soil and debris. So the comment here from Sir Bert Delusong is that we should expand the definition of waste to include all agricultural waste, but this is already addressed by the current definition of solid waste under RA 9003. And when we had a small group meeting last June 3, it was decided by the small group that we can carry the definition of solid waste in RA 9003. Do you have comments? Do you have further comments from the body? Okay, just a clarification, because DOH actually gave us a definition for healthcare, hazardous healthcare waste. Is it proper that instead of for subsection 2, is it proper that we refer to hazardous healthcare waste instead of infectious waste? DOH, can we hear from DOH, please?
Yes, actually, we have given a definition on infectious waste.
Yes, ma'am. So infectious waste lang, tama na infectious waste lang yung hindi included sa solid waste. Hindi yung lahat
Uh,
ng hazardous healthcare waste.
yeah, because there's another definition of infectious waste na iniba mo dyan sa overall solid waste definition. If the body agrees on that, it's okay for me.
So, okay po. Okay, so we're okay with the definition for solid waste. Now, let's move on to the definition for solid waste management facility. So, this is also, once again, from RA 9003. So, solid waste management facility refers to any resource recovery system or component thereof, any system, program, or facility for resource conservation, any facility for the collection, source separation, storage, transportation, transfer, processing, treatment, or disposal of solid waste. Do we have comments? Okay, no comments. Now let's move on to the definition for solid waste management. So the definition for now let's move on to the definition for solid waste management. Okay, for solid waste management, this is also lifted from RA 9003. So solid waste management refers to the discipline associated with the control of generation, storage, collection, transfer, and transport, processing, and disposal of solid waste in a manner that is in accord with the best principle of public health, economics, engineering, conservation, aesthetics, and other environmental considerations, and that is also responsive to the public attitudes. Do we have comments? Okay, no comments. Now let's move on to the definition of sharps. So initially, the definition was just sharps, but right now we integrated the definitions, the definition provided by DOH, which reads as sharps waste refers to needles, syringes, scalpel, saws, blades, broken glass, infusion sets, knives, nails, and other items that could cut or puncture wound. Okay, no further comments on sharps. For letter GG, we already discussed this the last time that we're going to rename tipping charge to processing fee to make a distinction between the fee paid to a waste to energy facility and the fee paid to a sanitary landfill or a or a disposal site. And this definition we agreed on last TWG na. So let's move on to the definition for waste. Now, there's actually no definition for waste. We just added it here because there's no definition for waste in our. Yes, Paula.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for DOH. Puncture wound appears to be a noun that could cut or puncture wound. Is this proper, or is there a missing word that could cut or cause a puncture wound? My question is, hindi kaya nga eh, so is puncture a verb? Kasi a puncture a wound, it causes a wound, but so a question for the DOH, is this definition correct? Maybe I'm missing something technical here, medically, so just a clarification. Thank you.
Okay, for this definition, I exactly taken this from the healthcare waste management manual that we have. But if this is the question for now, I'll just refer this to the committee and ask further clarification on this because this was the approved definition. It was already released in our administrative order.
Sige ma'am, if you can please kindly just get back to us on that. Maybe that's a technical definition based on that manual, or but if you can just email to us your answer, ma'am. Sige po. So,
Okay po. Okay. Noted po.
Clarification question.
Yes po.
Oo. Sa DOH po, this is Glenn from Northern Pilipinas.
Yes, Glenn.
I would just like to be clarified on the healthcare waste manual being cited and referred to in a number of definitions here. Is the DOH referring to the fourth edition manual of on healthcare waste?
Yes po, sir. All the definitions were taken from the Healthcare Waste Management Manual, the fourth edition, the currently edition
So
2020.
it is already approved or just in
Yes,
draft?
there's already an administrative order on that. Maybe I could provide the secretariat on the exact number of the administrative order. That was
Yes, yes.
just released last a month ago. The draft was already approved through an administrative order.
Um, siguro just for siguro ma'am, ano na lang po. Just kasi 'di ba, we revise the manual every now and then. We can make a reference pursuant to guidelines released by DOH for all the healthcare waste na we refer to in the bill. We'll just make proviso for all of them na pursuant to regulations issued by DOH po para if ever change na mapalitan.
Mute na, mute na.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Noted.
I'm looking at the Healthcare Waste Management Manual Volume 4. Sharps is defined as as can cause a cut or puncture wounds. So there's a missing that can cause cut or puncture wounds. So a clarification from DOH, if will be forthcoming would be appreciated. Or it change, Madam Chair.
Sige po, we'll look at this now. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Opo.
Okay. We'll look on this missing word for puncture wound.
Yes, ma'am. We'll wait na lang for advice from DOH po.
Yes, okay. Then in addition to what you have suggested, pursuant to the regulation on AO, administrative order of the department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Opo. Sige. So just to summarize, sa Sharps Waste, Paul, we'll be waiting for feedback from DOH on the proper terminology sa last phrase. Tapos for all healthcare waste definitions, we'll be adding a proviso that or a quality that is pursuant to rules and regulations issued by the DOH.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the definition of waste because we've already decided on the definition for processing fee from our last TWG. So there's no definition for waste in RA 9003, in the IRR, or the DAO of DNR. So there is a definition for waste materials in the NSWMC Resolution 699, which refers to, if you can look at footnote 15, waste materials is referred to as any material unused and rejected as worthless or unwanted. So we just added to it based on all the definitions of various waste here. So if you can look at it, or if you can get feedback from the body whether how we can further define this. So waste refers to any material unused or rejected by persons as worthless or unwanted. It is not a natural resource and includes, among others, agricultural, biomedical, chemical and industrial, hazardous, municipal, solid, pathological, and pharmaceutical waste. Yes, Paul.
Madam Chair.
Enumeration.
Some,
There is also an addition from DOH, genotoxic waste. It's up in paragraph J. It's not included here. Should we include or because the other types of waste defined
Yes.
are included?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's already covered by biomedical because when we refer to biomedical, if you look at the new definition for biomedical or hazardous healthcare waste, it refers to all kinds of waste such as sharps, infectious, pathological, anatomical, pharmaceutical, genotoxic, chemical, radioactive, and pressurized
Thank you,
containers.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, can I have an input for the waste? First to
Sir William, ikaw po ba
yes,
yan?
yes, Madam Chair, can I have an input regarding the definitions of waste? If we can put to any materials misplaced, comma, unused, because actually the waste could be considered as misplaced, and it could be used anywhere. It could be used anytime if that will not be misplaced. The same as if we have to interpret in the compost material. If that will not be used as a compost material, this could be considered as waste. But if you have to use that, that will not be considered anymore a waste material. So if that will be amenable by all the groups, we will cross the any material misplaced, unused, or rejected. Rejected, I mean. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sir William. So there's a proposal here that we will add a definition. We will add the word misplaced to the definition of waste. Okay, the reason why now we added it's not a natural resource, it's based on the discussion of the small group that there has to be a clarification in the bill that it's not a natural resource.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, this is Yusek Pekson. Hello. Madam Chair.
Requesting for recognition po. Yusek Pekson, yes po.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. Just want to add a clarification here because we are actually talking of waste that can be converted to energy when we talk of waste to energy. So not all waste have what we call calorific value, or not always, for example, cement waste, if concrete waste, if you demolish a building, the concrete that materials that you get out of that, or the steel that you get out of that, you cannot burn this and convert this into energy. So when we say waste to energy, then we're really referring to a class of waste that has sufficient calorific content or energy content in order that energy can be extracted. So, so just want to mention that because in letter HH we define waste, and then the next definition is waste to energy, and it seems to imply that anything that falls under the definition of waste can be used in a waste to energy facility,
Thank you.
and that is not the case.
Thank you, Yusek. I think we already we can address this because we agreed already last TWG on the definition for waste to energy feedstock. I think your concern can be addressed by that. But when we go later to the definition for waste to energy, we can actually just replace the word waste with waste to energy feedstock for consistency. Kasi if we can go to letter KK po, na-define na natin yung waste to energy feedstock. So, of course, yung waste to energy feedstock, it's the kind of waste that will be used in a waste to energy facility. Siguro for consistency lang, in the definition, in the waste to energy facility, in the waste to energy definition, can you please go up, Jen? Oh, we can just we can just change waste in line 21, converting waste to energy feedstock. Converting waste to energy. Converting waste to energy.
Yes, I think, Madam Chair, that will take care of the issue that I raised. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Hi, this is Attorney Mona. Just a clarification. Yeah, good morning. Just a clarification. Do we need a separate definition for waste when we already have a defined term, solid waste? And considering that we're, as mentioned also earlier, we're just supplementing RA 9003 which really covers solid waste?
Attorney Mona, this wasn't the definition for waste wasn't actually in the original bill. This was
Yes.
just added in case the concern is brought up that the entire bill talks about waste, but there's really no definition for waste on its own. So
Although we have solid waste, right?
yes, we do have solid waste, but it's just placed here for consideration of the body whether it's necessary to have a definition for waste on its own or not. Kasi even if you look at yung RA 9003, actually there's no law that defines waste on its
Yes.
own. Yung
Yes.
NSWMC lang po.
Yep.
So if the body feels na it's unnecessary, we can delete it. But if the body feels that it's really an opportunity to define waste, the generic term waste, then we can put it here.
Okay. Maybe ma'am will just reserve our final recommendation when we go through the entire bill and see in terms of context whether the definition is still necessary.
Thank you po.
Madam
What we
Chair.
can do is we can leave, it's based, we can just we can either delete this or just leave.
Madam Chair.
Okay, ano po, this is not final. We will just place this here. If you can give us your further comments on whether it's needed that we define waste, and if ever you have an alternative definition,
Submit na lang po.
submit na lang please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll just highlight it for further comments yung sa definition ng waste na to. Okay, now let's move on to the definition of waste to energy. So it refers to an energy system with a process of converting waste to energy feedstock with various technologies, usually the conversion of non-recyclable waste materials into usable heat, electricity, or fuel through a variety of processes. So the reason why the term energy system is placed here is because we earlier said that waste to energy is an RE resource. So in the RE Act definition, all kinds of RE resource are defined as energy systems. So that's the reason why there's a term energy system there. And then we also have in the pre-TWG, this is actually consistent with a definition in the DAO, except for the word energy system. And this is the definition used in Senator Tolentino's bill. This is the DAO definition used, and this is also supported by MMDA. Yung dagdag lang natin ay yung energy system, tapos instead of the word waste, ginawa nating waste to energy feedstock. Do you have other comments po?
Good morning. Annalisa Rolion po.
Yes, Ma'am Annalisa.
Kumbaga, dito kasi 'di ba, dinefine naman natin yung waste to energy system siya, pero it's actually a process. It can be a single process or a process system. So if we are going back dun sa ating definition ng renewable energy, actually, usually there are 5 or 6 classified renewable energy resource, and yun yung biological, etc. So yung waste to energy actually, pumapasok siya dun sa biomass, which includes the biogenic part of municipal waste. And so yung waste to energy system kasi hindi siya yung waste to energy kasi is a process, not a resource. It is the feedstock that becomes a resource. So yung renewable part lang ng waste ang tinatawag nating renewable resource. So kung babalikan natin yon, papasok yung waste dun sa biomass, which we can say na may which includes biogenic part of the municipal waste among other biomass examples. So dapat tanggalin natin yung inclusion ng WTE and instead include it dun sa part ng biomass kasi dun lang naman siya papasok as renewable resource.
Thank you,
Renewable energy resource. So.
Annalisa, yung discussion on WTE as RE, we can park that po when we can discuss that po when we go to section 5 later.
Hindi, kino-correct ko lang kasi iba yung resource, iba yung renewable energy resource, iba yung waste to energy. Yung isa resource, yung waste to energy is a process. So
Yes,
just to correct, oo.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Ano po? Pero yung what you call this, the reason why na what you call this, nilagay yung pag-refer natin kanina sa definition, we're saying na dinagdagan natin ng energy system kasi lahat ng, 'di ba yung earlier natin na definition, yung RE resource, part siya ng it's an RE resource. Yun yung sabi natin initially, which is subject for discussion. Yung definition, in-adjust lang natin for consistency sa RE Act. Kasi when you look at solar energy, yung definition sa RE Act, solar energy, hydro energy, ocean energy, it all refers to an energy system. So ano lang po, wala pa tayo sa usapang whether RE siya or hindi. Mamaya pa po natin pag-uusapan. So what we want to look at lang now is kung yung definition ba natin ng waste to energy, tama po ba? Na it's an energy system na kasama siya, na may kasamang process of converting waste to energy feedstock. Apo.
Sa ngayon, okay siya. Pero siguro nga dapat balikan natin yung pagkaka-phrase natin ng renewable energy resource. Kasi resource siya, iba yung resource dun sa system. Yun yung point ko kung saan papasok ito. So baka babalikan naman natin yun mamaya.
Yes, ma'am. Opo. Pupunta naman tayo dun later sa section 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you po. Okay, so no further comments on the definition of waste to energy po. Let's now go to the definition of WTE facility. Just for the reference of everyone, we deleted yung definition ng waste to energy technology since technology evolves over time. So ayaw naman natin na malimit tayo. So dinilit na lang natin yung technology na definition. So now let's move on sa definition ng waste to energy facility. It refers to a facility where the WTE operations are conducted. So based on the small group meeting, it was decided that it would be best to use the DAO definition. And the DAO definition is this definition, and this is also the same definition in Senate Bill 401. I think merong comment yung EEP, yung UP EEP, that the WTE facility refers to a processing facility that utilizes WTE technology such as a power plant, a biofuel plant, a biogas digester, and a biogas producing sanitary landfill. Pero ma'am, I think mas generic itong definition na to kasi we want it to be more generic than specific po.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, thank you po.
Thank you.
Tapos na po tayo sa WTE facility, and then now we've already agreed on the definition ng waste to energy feedstock class TWG, and we also agreed sa definition ng waste generation last TWG. Now let's move on to our last definition, which is the definition for yes.
Yun po. Yun lang pong generic definition ng waste to energy facility.
Yes.
Do we interpret this to be what will be the breadth of the extent of the operations to be conducted or to be done in the facility? Does it go from collection all the way to generation of the energy? meron naman tayong definition ng WT, what constitutes an operation of a WTE, ano?
Sir Enrico, okay, tama po
Yes
ba?
po, Eric na lang po.
Sir? Yes.
Yes.
Yes po. Sir, in section 5, letter C, we actually see there yung guidelines, what the operation guidelines should include. So it includes pre-operation, waste acceptance, waste storage, pre-processing of waste, quality control, operational control, pollution abatement, emissions monitoring, envi monitoring, decommissioning, closure, abandonment, and disposal of waste.
Okay, so it includes pre-operations.
Yes, sir. Kasi ngayon sa DAO, kasama yung pre-operations po.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last definition, WTE strategy. So WTE strategy refers to a plan of action with measurable targets towards the sustainability of feedstock for an increased utilization of WTE facilities. The strategy is a tool both for solid waste management and increased utilization of bioenergy technologies. So this is a new definition actually, because we're going to require the inclusion of a WTE strategy in the solid waste management plans if it's feasible. So we've earlier decided that hindi na tayo gagamit ng term na bioenergy technologies. So papalitan natin to ng WTE technologies, but we would like to get the body's feedback on what the definition should be. Meron po tayo sa footnote 20, it's from IPM. They actually said kung ano yung dapat i-take into consideration in developing a WTE project, such as waste characterization, available waste volume, efficient, viable, and sustainable technology, proximity to the grid connection, and then yung fees. So, nilagay lang po natin yon as a footnote, as a reference. Maybe we can get feedback from NSWMC and DANR since i-include to sa solid waste management plan if feasible. Sir Chris, I mean, we request all our resource persons to speak louder po, or if you can speak closer to the microphone po of your respective computers po. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, our comment here is to change the word bioenergy to waste to energy so that it becomes more general. Para at least it's not confusing, no? Because right now, we are looking at waste to energy in all types of waste, not only on the bio component of the waste. This definition is acceptable. Just change waste to, instead of bioenergy, waste to energy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sir Chris. Other
Um,
comments from the body?
Madam Chair, it's Yusek Pekson from PPP Center.
Yes, Yusek Pekson.
Yes. Well, I'm actually concerned with the definition. I think overall, we would like a reduction in waste that is being generated. So I think that's the overarching goal. In fact, if we can generate zero waste, that is even better. So to minimizing the generation of waste would be the secondary objective if zero waste cannot be achieved. So in this sentence of MM definition, it says increased utilization of WTE facilities. So does that mean we're going to increase the generation of feedstock purposely in order to increase the utilization of WTE facilities? I don't think so. So what I propose instead is that we follow what is the first principle, which is minimization of waste. And if we do generate such waste that can no longer be minimized, then that's the kind of feedstock we will be using. So therefore, we try to maximize not the utilization of what WTE facility, but to maximize the use of waste for alternative purposes that serve that provide benefits such as electricity generation.
Thank you, Yusek. Siguro to address this, kasi I think earlier naman, last TWG, we made it clear that this is just a supplement nga to the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, and we don't want this to replace the current solid waste management practices to reduce waste or refuse waste in the first place. So just to reflect that discussion and to reflect Music Pexon's comment, what we can do is we can delete yung words towards the sustainability of feedstock and increase. Sige po, check na. And increase, for an increase hanggang increase. Delete natin. For the, ayan. Tapos, yung for, iiwan na. Okay, maybe we can improve on this definition. WTE strategy refers to a plan of action with measurable targets for the utilization of WTE facilities. The strategy is a tool both for solid waste management and utilization of waste to energy.
Madam Chair?
Yes, yes.
If Attorney Mona here, if I may suggest, maybe we can revise it to state WTE strategy refers to a plan of action with measurable targets for the utilization of WTE facilities as a strategy for solid waste management. Full stop.
Okay, sige po. Sige, thank you, Attorney Mona. So, as a
strategy for solid waste management.
And perhaps we can add just for consistency kasi clear naman tayo from the start na it's a tool for solid waste management and also for energy production as a strategy for solid waste management and energy production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you to everyone for your input. So our new definition reads, subject to further improvement from the body, WTE strategy refers to a plan of action with measurable targets for the utilization of WTE facilities as a strategy for solid waste management and energy production. Do we have further comments? Yes, Paula.
My question for the body is, we define WTE strategy and later on as a strategy. So I think because WTE strategy refers to a plan of action, then later on utilization of WTE as a strategy just doesn't. It seems awkward.
Maybe just go directly to utilization for solid waste management.
Okay, thank you. Utilization for solid waste management. For the utilization of solid waste.
I skip utilization of WTE facilities for solid waste management.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Please.
Comments?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shouldn't we state here that the WTE strategy should be the last option or last resort because in the principles in the above, as a matter of state policy, the hierarchy or the prioritization of our waste management, solid waste management, still gives importance to reduction, reuse, and recycling. So if other options as provided in RA 9003 won't work, then this could be the last option, which is the WT strategy.
Sir Glenn, yung sinasabi niyo po, hindi lang natin nalagay sa policy objectives but will be including it in the policy objectives na priority yung priority pa rin yung ating 5 Rs. The reason why we're referring, we can't add that kasi we're just defining what a WTA strategy is. Yung concern niyo po, Sir Glenn, what we'll do is we will add it sa declaration of policy. Tapos, when we have drafted it na po, sa next natin na round for comments, ilalagay po namin yun sa policy, sa declaration of policy natin. At ito po kasi we're just defining WTE strategy. Hindi natin sinasabi na papalitan po yung 5 hours. We just want to define it po. Kasi
Yes, ma'am. I understand, ma'am. My point is when we are defining the terms, it should be inconsistent with the above set of state policies. Ito rin kasi yung point na I think the apprehension of Yusek Pekson that this might suggest that whenever an LGU wants, they can at all times use WT strategy without even trying or exercising what RA 9003 is mandating. Diba? Parang
yes, thank you po. Sir Glenn,
madadivert ang kanilang focus and attention.
Madam Chair.
I think
Sa
yes po. To address your concern po, sa ano natin, sa if you look at yung mga responsibilities ng mga local solid waste management commission and even sa NSWMC kasi in-include po natin yung WTE strategy sa kanilang solid waste management plan, pero sinabi natin if it's feasible. If you want, Sir Glenn, to address the concern, what we can do later sa pagpumunta tayo sa part in the creation of the solid waste management plan, we can put an emphasis there. Dapat hindi yun first priority ng WTE strategy. But first priority pa rin, parang after exhausted yung 9003 and if feasible yung WTE, pwede nilang lagyan yung WTE strategy. Siguro sir, mamaya, pag pumunta tayo sa responsibilities, tingnan natin kung saan natin pwedeng ilagay yun.
Sige, but if that looks that way, siguro balikan din uli natin yung definition na ito, ha? Okay lang ako.
Yes po, sige po. Thank you, Sir Glenn. So, so just to go back po to your concern, so first we'll be adding it sa declaration of policy, tapos later sa creation ng solid waste management plans, lagay po natin din doon. Sige. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Sir Glenn.
Madam Chair.
Yes, may we know speaking. Sir Chris, opo.
What I would suggest is for solid waste management treatment. I think that addresses the concern of Glenn. Because if you look at the hierarchy, you push through the first 3 hours before you go treatment. So I suggest to add the word treatment.
Yeah. Sige po. Yeah, I think baka better ngayon, Sir Chris. So, we have a new proposal here. So, the definition reads as, WTE strategy refers to a plan of action with measurable targets for the utilization of WTE facilities for solid waste management, treatment, and energy production.
Teka lang, ma'am.
Yes po, apo. Yung sinabi ni Chris, apo.
Yes, ma'am. With regards dun sa suggestion ni Christian Lau, for solid waste management treatment, how about yung existing waste treatment facilities that actually are not waste to energy?
Sir, so hindi na natin sinasabi na ito lang yung solid waste management treatment. Sinasabi lang po natin na pwede siyang maging solid waste management treatment po. Kasi yung ibang mga solid waste management treatments, yung sinabi nga natin, ilalagay natin later sa part ng solid waste management plan po.
Okay, sige.
Thank you, sir.
We can discuss on this later. Sige.
Apo, sige po. Ninote ko naman, Sir Glenn. Apo. Okay, so we finished our definition of terms.
Just a question about the strategy. Do we need to impute a timeline for the plan of action and indicate its renewal period?
Okay, DOST. Okay. Sir, wala po. Hindi usually yung Sir, we don't want to put that kasi we don't want to be limiting naman po. Since nilagay natin siya as part of the solid waste management plan, if it's feasible and kung na-exhaust na ng LGU yung ibang solid waste management treatment facilities, since ano naman po siya, part siya ng local solid waste management plan, so sasabay po siya sa pag-submit ng solid waste management plan.
Ma'am, this plan of action refers to local plans of action, or is this on a national scale? Kasi if it is going to be done on a national scale, we might as well put some indicators there, kasi kung wala naman din kasi tayong targets to meet, nakalagay din kasi dito measurable targets eh. So if we should be specific about plans of action, dapat alam din natin ano yung mga milestones natin along the way. And maybe there's a need to review that plan of action after a certain point in time, given the developments maybe in technology or the progress that we have already made. Kasi kung parang open-ended ito, ang concern ko lang dito, ma'am, baka wala rin tayong magiging effort para makapag-meet ng certain goals or milestones. Anyway, ang recommendation din naman kasi dito is for that plan of action to be developed by the authorized organization, for example, our National Solid Waste Commission, to craft that plan of action.
Sir, thank you. Sir, yung plan of action, so nilagay natin siya sa various solid waste management plans. So depende po kung sino yung gagawa, then yun po, gagawa sila ng plan of action based, let's say kung kung local yung gagawa ng solid waste management plan niya, so yung kanyang plan of action when it comes to WTE strategy ay for their specific locality po. Tapos kung province naman po, since ibibigay ng city or municipality to the province, so yung province will make that WTE strategy based on the submissions of the cities and municipalities to them. And the same way din po sa national natin na solid waste management plan, after submission ng lahat din po ng mga provinces.
Ma'am, kasi kung that is the case, it does not really look like a strategy. It's like a bottom-up approach in planning. Siguro I have just that impression that when you talk of strategy, it's national in nature, where you have goals and milestones in mind. But in this case, parang ganun pala na mula local, tapos ina-aggregate yung data at saka yung progress on a local to the higher level hanggang makaabot. Pero ang maganda kasi nito, because this is a national law anyway, if we could set it as a matter of national strategy, yun sana po yung perspective. Thank you po.
Thank you, sir. Ayun po. I think, sir, I think yung concern niya is because of the term plan of action. Tama po ba? What we can do, ayaw naman po kasi natin na the national government will dictate na dapat ito yung milestones natin by this specific time. Kasi sabi nga natin na it will depend on the feasibility of the WTE facility in a specific locality, and it will also depend on the situation on the ground. Kung after ma-exhaust nila after nila ma-exhaust lahat na solid waste management treatment facilities na pwede, or so ayaw naman natin na dapat by this time ganito nakadami. So sir, ganito na lang. Yung concern nyo is, I think it will be addressed if we change the term plan of action. Baka you can give us an alternative word instead, and we will think of another word as well to address your concern. But yun sir yung reason kung bakit yun ang nakalagay. Sir Chris, maybe we can hear from you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. No, I think we can leave it as it is because if you look through the law, the commission is actually looked into on the national level to integrate this as part of the national strategy, and then you will also have local government units that can also make this a policy or a strategy on their end. No, so you have local, regional, national. It can work both ways the way this is crafted, either bottom up or top down. I like it the way it's phrased because it doesn't dictate that this is what you need to do. No? Because that's not the intent of why we're doing this. We want the WTE as an alternative to us that is made available. So I would recommend to leave it as it is. And the plan of action, for me, the terminology is good enough. It can go top down or bottom up. For me, that's fine.
Sige, thank you, Sir Chris. Okay, sige, so that we can move forward lang siguro. For the purposes of the TWG, we're going to maintain the definition as it is, but subject to further comments from the body. So yung nag-raise ng kanilang concerns from DOSTP CERD and then from No Burn Philippines. Opo, we'll note it po, but please kindly submit to us kung ano yung alternatives that you're proposing. But for the purposes of the TWG, we'll leave it as it is po. Okay? Sige, now let's move on to section 5. Okay, section 5. Now, okay, sa section 5, siguro yung pinaka-contentious itong first sentence natin, and then, so I'll read this and then I'll read all the comments and then we can discuss po, okay? So, waste to energy and waste to energy facility. WTE shall be classified as another kind of RE resource. So, we have a lot of comments. So, from DOE, DOE earlier said, yung earlier comments nila that it is an RE resource because humans will always generate waste. So yun yung perspective ng RE. Hindi, it's not the composition of the waste, but it's the fact that waste will always be generated. There's a NEDA comment that says that there may be a need to assess the requirement for 50% organic waste to qualify as a biomass project. Tapos yung PPC naman told us that their preferred option would be is to capture the applicable incentives provided in the renewable energy law and make it a part of the waste to energy law para hindi kailangang i-classify as an RE resource yung WTE. NSWMC through Mr. Lau gave us the research that shows that Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Taiwan, these jurisdictions actually classify municipal solid waste as renewable energy resources, and in these jurisdictions, they actually give a feed-in tariff to municipal solid waste as an RE resource. While NREB gave us their research that shows that in Europe and in some parts of the US, biomass, only the portion that's biodegradable is considered as renewable energy resource. But there are actually states in the US, such as Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maryland, that classify WTE as renewable energy. We also, NREB also brought up the concern that one option would be to consider it as a hybrid system wherein only the portion that uses biomass or biodegradable feedstock will be considered as an RE resource. But there will be administrative difficulties in terms of implementation of the non-fiscal incentives in the RE Act if the hybrid approach will be undertaken. For UPEEP, the research that they submitted shows that only WTE systems with biomass waste as a feedstock can be classified as a renewable energy system. While No Burn Philippines and the other groups that such as Mother Earth, Greenpeace, Eco Waste Coalition said that most residual waste is considered as a feedstock for thermal WTE plants are made from fossil fuels and therefore cannot be considered as a renewable resource. So burning plastics to produce energy is not renewable. Since we have various opinions on this, maybe we can hear from each proponent and then we can make a decision afterwards. Sige. We'll go through it based sa nakalagay sa footnote. Sige, let's hear first from DOE. DOE. DOE, Ma'am Ruby, Director Mylene. Okay, habang wala pa si Ma'am Ruby or si Director Mylene, we can listen to Neda. Is Neda present? Neda? Okay, PPP Center, USEC
Thank you.
Pexon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, the issue goes beyond just a definition. So let me just explain this from the perspective of a public-private partnership, which is probably one of the vehicles to implement this strategy. When investors, when private investors would invest in a public-private partnership, they need assurance that whatever revenues they can collect will be collected. And one of those revenues, or shall we say, one of the cash inflows into or to the private sector would be the incentives that would be provided. So whether it is coming from this bill or another bill, that is not the main issue. But the main thing is that if I am going to invest, I as a private sector, going to invest billions of pesos into a waste to energy facility, and if my sources of revenues are not that clear or could be subject to being challenged later in a court, then that puts my business, and this in reality, this is a business for waste to energy operators in jeopardy. So unless we become clear on how those incentives would be provided, then this will be a deterrent for potential investors to come in into this project. And without those investors, then we won't have a waste to energy facility. So I'm not calling for any particular definition. I'm just calling for clarity because the renewable energy bill unfortunately did not include waste in its list of uh, renewable energy sources, if I am not mistaken. So we could have a situation where we have one bill that did not include waste, and that happens to be the bill that provides incentives, and another bill that includes waste as renewable energy. But what do we have? It would be, for me, it's not so clear. We have two bills that are not fully aligned with one another. So that's really the main point I'm raising, not really to offer a definition for waste to energy being a renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusek Pekson. PPP Center, the bottom line for PPP Center is that there has to be clarity and certainty for our investors. Tama po.
Clarity on the incentives that can be obtained by whatever bill comes out. If those incentives are not clear, then there's a part of the revenues that they could generate that would be put in question. And let me also state that clarity of revenues for the private sector would also mean, especially if incentives are considered, would also mean lower tipping fees to be paid by LGUs. If the tipping fee does not include incentives, then when private investors would bid for a waste to energy project, then they will exclude incentives from their financial models, meaning their proposals, and therefore charge the cost of operating the waste to energy facility to the tipping fee alone. So it doesn't also benefit the local government if incentives are not that clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yusek. So once again, so clarity and certainty of two things, incentives and revenue stream for our investors po. Ano lang po, yung mga nag-chat po ng suggestions, we take note of it po, and then it will be considered when we redraft yung drafting ng bill, yung redrafting ng bill after our TWG. So if there are things na natapos na po natin, tapos naalala nyo, you can just chat it and then we will take note of it po. Okay? Thank you so much, Yusek Pekson. Now let's move on to NSWMC, Mr. Lau.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I support Yusek Pekson of PPP Center. No, there has to be clarity, and it is critical that this law makes it very clear what are the incentives available to a proponent. No, um, the reason why we want this to be categorized or classified as RE is partly because of the incentives and the possibility of getting the feed-in tariff or offtake prices from the RE. No, if you look at the research, there is no standardized, and that is evidenced by a study made for APEC by US Atari. Well, I furnished the committee a copy of that. That says that there is a difference in the way it is actually viewed. No, some areas in Europe would only view biomass as renewable, and the rest of the waste is not. Other countries or other economies within APEC would view municipal solid waste as a whole as renewable. No? I think if we want to engage in making this argument, and I remember the senator saying that we need to have a reference if we declare it as FE. So which side will we go to? And that's a bigger challenge right now. I support the suggestion of PPP Center that, and this was my earlier recommendation, that the incentives be spelled out in the WTE law, um, the bill that's being proposed, where you copy paste the incentives that are made available to RE and place it here, so there's clarity to that. Incentives on tipping fee was mentioned. Then we have to make a decision because there are two avenues or sources of income for a facility. It is your tipping fee or your offtake price for energy. So we have to make that decision. We have to balance that. Ano? Is it an incentive now by lowering tipping fees, or do we give the offtake price? So we have to frame it that way. Siguro for the consideration of the body, for me, I would rather make it clear the incentives can be placed clear here without establishing as to whether municipal solid waste as a whole is RE or not. You know, if we put it here, that addresses the whole problem. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sir Chris. So, just for the information of the body, so this will be the order of the comments on this topic. So, next we will have NREB, followed by UPEEP, followed by Noburn Philippines, followed by DOF. Okay? Now let's move on to NREB.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Attorney
ma'am.
Fee? Yes, okay. In our recommendation, I think we're very much aligned with the research also of Sir Chris and his team. We've also seen that in other jurisdictions, it really depends on what they recognize as renewable is the portion that's biodegradable. And this language, this categorization, as we noted also in our position paper, is actually carried over to the Renewable Energy Act, where biomass is defined among others, as the non-fossilized biodegradable organic material. And it also continues to refer to the biodegradable organic fractions of specifically industrial and municipal waste, as well as the gases and liquids recovered from the decomposition and or extraction of the non-fossilized and biodegradable organic materials. So as mentioned earlier when the chair read our comments, we unless we want to revisit this definition and include in this measure an amendment of the Renewable Energy Act, this portion of the Renewable Energy Act, then what we can only consider as renewable is the biodegradable portion of the waste. I echo the position earlier of our other resource persons that if the intention is to extend the incentives of the RE Act to developers of WTE facilities, then perhaps we can consider um, including in this legislative measure the incentives that we want to extend. maybe what I will just add, and this was not in our position paper yet, just in the course of listening to the other experts, maybe what we can add is also a revisiting of what incentives are really fit for a WTE facility. For example, if we're looking at a guaranteed tariff, for example, in the form of, or that would approximate a feed-in tariff. Like in other jurisdictions, I think that's why they consider WTE facilities as renewable, because they wanted to extend the fit to the energy produced by these facilities. That contemplates that the facility is actually going to sell to the grid in portions that will be taken on by the grid. Maybe that will be part, and I'm actually delighted that Yusek Pekson is here, because the PPP structure is really fit for WTE facility. But who would be the logical off-taker of the energy produced? Maybe it's the LGU that will be the logical off-taker of the energy produced, because the energy produced by the facility will not be in very substantial volumes or very substantial capacity. So those things will need to be considered when the incentive package is designed for the WTE facility. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Attorney Mona. So after DOF, we will also hear from Dream. Okay, now may we hear from UPEEP, Dr. Annalisa?
Hello, good morning. Itong section 5, first gusto ko lang i-comment una, yung waste to energy system. Iba kasi yung RE resource sa RE system. Yung RE resource, yun yung hindi pa natin nako-convert. Yung RE system, yung kino-convert na natin siya. Ngayon, yung observation ko dun sa iba't ibang country definition nga niya, well, iba yung, medyo mo naiba yung definition natin ng RE resource. Pero kung sa objective nitong section 5, yung giving incentive, yung tanong ko dati na how important is classifying a WTE as an RE system. Kasi pwede ka rin namang magsabi na as a WTE system, meron siyang incentive. Pero yung practice halimbawa sa ibang country, sa European Union na directive, it's the biomass portion of waste that is considered as a renewable resource. And dun sa US naman, may mga countries na kino-consider siya sa RE, meron namang hindi. I mean, may mga states. Pero to unify, ang kino-consider na lang nila na RE generation or utilization is the part of the feedstock that is biomass. So, kung titingnan natin sa statistics ng International Renewable Energy Agency, ang kino-consider nila, na pumapasok doon yung waste to energy facilities doon sa biomass. Pero ang kino-consider lang doon na part ay yung renewable municipal waste na dinidefine nila, which is the biogenic or the biodegradable portion. So, sa atin ba, kailangan ba natin siyang i-classify as RE? Or, kasi kung i-classify natin siya na RE, baka yun nga, katulad ng sinabi naman na una kanina, only the part which is biodegradable. Now, if it is difficult to really calculate that, baka pwede namang may separate incentive for a WTE facility. Yun lang yung yun yung aking previous comment din actually.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc Annalisa. May we hear from Noburn Philippines?
Yes. First off, I think we cannot ever subscribe to the way it is being defined here, no? Yung waste to energy and classifying it as an RE, whether resource or system. For the reasons already stated in our position paper. Now, my question or our concern rather in making definition, defining or classifying any terms in this bill is that are finding ways to, you know, um, rationalize or something that the objective is not actually to come up with a scientific or logical, politically correct definition of term, but rather to obtain um, incentive. Now, if that is the intent, then I also um, concur with other suggestion that maybe uh, the body, if it is define what are the incentives that WTE operators would like to avail of. Instead of, pilipitin natin yung mga termino na hindi naman uh, tama, magiging katawa-tawa. No? And babalikan ko lang, no? If now is incentive is a very crucial or critical component bill make WTE successful. I remember in previous public hearing and also the claims of WTE proponent that waste to energy is much cheaper, efficient, and more effective than our existing practices. Now it is turning the opposite, no? Because hinahanapan nga natin ng paraan kung paano magiging investment friendly itong waste to energy. And our concern here is that it's not just a short-term problem on practical side, because any WTE business will run at least 20 years, 25 or 30 years. Now, who would risk in supporting or sustaining this business venture? Di ba ang mga LGUs naman ang actually magiging kabahagi o katuwang? And I don't think they are in a position or ready to take that financial risk on their side. Kasi may nagkaroon na ba tayo ng clear computations, no? O yung sinasabi natin na feasibility study. Kasi even the NEDA, mukhang pre-feasibility study pa lang din ang mga nakandak. At wala talagang nagsasabi ng mga exact numbers or if not exact, maybe yung mas malapit-lapit sa katotohanan na estimation or study. How are we really going to sustain the operation? Because we know for a fact, setting up the facility is expensive, much more expensive kapag nandyan yung air pollution control devices, measures, no? And even more expensive to maintain. Those kind of costs and expenses should be very studied, no? Carefully studied and closely looked at, no? Before even considering what incentives or where do we get this money to give. Kasi kung incentive lang, bakit hindi tayo magbigay ng incentive doon sa mga existing natin na zero waste, solid waste management na tingin namin mas makakamura, no? At hindi komplikado katulad ng waste to energy facilities na ito. Kasi a number of LGUs have been practicing this non-approach in managing their waste. Waste problem in the country or even in other contexts is not a high technology issue. It's a very practical and environmental approach, that doesn't necessitate a high-tech or technopix or whatever technology that is being offered there just for the sake of business. So yun lang po.
Thank you, Sir Glenn. Okay, may we hear from DOF, ASEC Paula?
Hi, ma'am. Good morning. Just a short background. I handle sustainable finance for the Department of Finance, and we agree with Yusek Pekson of the PPP Center that in terms of investments, for example, for renewable energy or other sustainable facilities that aim to support, for example, lowering of pollution or aim to support achieving national determined contribution targets, we think that definitions are very important. As a background, the SEC already adopted the ASEAN Green Bond standard. So what does this mean? It means that, for example, if you want to float green bonds to support investments that add to lowering of carbon emissions or making your water more clean or sustainable, other sustainable facilities, you have to follow certain definitions that investors agree would contribute to lowering of pollution or sustainable investments. So, as a background, the European Union especially is very keen in supporting sustainable investments. As a matter of fact, the Philippines sits in the Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action, and one of our goals is to increase financing towards green or resilient investments. And waste to energy facilities is number one, or energy renewable energy investments is a main concern. So number two, in terms of financing cost, it is true that it's very hard for local government units to finance these types of investments. That's why your international community wants to mainstream, for example, green bonds because it sets a common definition for sustainable investments. Number two, when we look at these types of projects, revenue is not the only thing, or incentives is not the only thing that international investors, as far as we know, look at. So they also look at risk sharing, the contributions to social equity, or for example, how does it affect your community? Does it increase the resilience of the population? Does it contribute to sustainability in developing their areas? For example, how much in terms of carbon footprint does it lower? If you compare waste to energy and renewable energy sources, waste to energy is different because you can create a circular economy, for example. You can attach your waste from markets to waste to energy facilities to help you provide energy for example, transportation like your e-jeepneys. So these things can be connected together. Whereas for renewable energy per se, it is a bigger category. You have your solar, you have your wind, you have your ocean, and these fall under different types of categories in terms of carbon footprint, in terms of social impact. So these aspects are also taken or looked into. Now, in terms of viability, internationally, what we're looking at now is for you to transition into low carbon energy sources. Because in the long run, a lot of economic or development economic experts are looking at carbon as not a sustainable form of energy. So, how do we encourage our rural areas or off grid areas to have cheaper forms of energy? I don't think we should look into investments and renewable energy projects as a typical project wherein you compute revenues, risk, and incentives, because these are not the only ones present. There is cost of financing. You don't actually need incentives or tax breaks if you have lower cost of financing in terms of your money. Number two, there are other laws, for example, the Green Jobs Act, which already provide incentives like tax-free importation of capital equipment if your enterprise produces green jobs. Now, if our definition of a waste to energy facility falls within the definition of enterprises that gives green jobs, then automatically you already fall for you're covered with these types of incentives. So I think when we try to look at this law, we should look at the whole picture. We should also consult NEDA and the CCC so that we know what other factors we have to look into. Not just revenues, not just feed-in tariffs, but you also have to compute for the social impact and the long-term impact of your investments. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Asik Paula. We're reading po. If ever you send comments to our chat group, we actually read it po. So if you want to say something, you can just put it there po, and then we'll take it into consideration. Okay, now may we hear from Attorney Jay from Dream.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and to all the participants. We did a quick research of the issue of whether WTE can be considered a renewable energy resource. Actually, Madam Chair, looking at the proposal and the current language and the proposal of PPP Center, we can see that it is creating a new definition for WTE, another kind. We fully support that because if you look at how WTE is positioning itself, it is actually what we call sui generis. Now, it is a class on its own, primarily because it has a dual purpose. One, it generates electricity, and the other one is it addresses the garbage problem. Now, because it is sui generis, then we fully support the statement, and in fact, Section 5, the first sentence, that WTE is actually a different kind of RE resource. No, it solves and it addresses, that kind of definition solves and addresses everybody's concerns. Because for one, the DOE's position is it is renewable because our waste is infinite. As the population grows, based on that footnote, um, waste will forever be there. At the same time, if you look at the research conducted by NSWMC, our Asian neighbors have actually classified WTE as falling within the classification of renewable energy, and in fact, even qualified under the FIT system. No? While NREB cited European and some US states as limiting RE only to the biodegradable or organic components, um, our Asian neighbors, on the other hand, Indonesia, Taiwan, Malaysia, Thailand, no, they all classify WTE as renewable energy. Now, so having said that, I go also to the final point, which I fully support, stated by Yusek Pekson. At the end of the day, what's key is really providing the incentives, but without necessarily restating them. If we define waste to energy as a new kind of RE resource, which this bill anyway can do, and then in section 16, it makes a reference to WTE being entitled to incentives, then probably we don't need to debate on the matter anymore. As long as it is clear to all of us that based on this bill, WTE is entitled to the incentives provided in the RE law, then Section 5, as currently drafted, should be okay. We have recognized WTE as another kind of RE resource, a sui generis.
Thank you, Sir Jay. And I think we have a comment submitted to our chat box from Laban Consumer, Sir Vic. Attorney Vic Dimagi ba? Okay, siguro ano na lang, I'll say what
Hello?
Sir Vic, ayan, yan na.
Hello? Can
Sir
you hear
Vic,
me?
opo.
Okay. Sige, a bit interesting, the discussion on WTO and,
Sir Vic, can you please, can you make your voice louder, please?
okay, sige ulit, okay na? Okay?
Sir,
Can you hear me?
sige pa po.
Okay na?
Yan, better, apo.
All right. Okay. Very interesting. The discussion on the waste to energy bills had transformed into uh, the resurrection of the renewable energy issues, no, that had been uh, the advocacy of our group, Laban Consumer Inc. You know, I guess I I I don't remember in the committee hearing whether there was much discussion on classifying WTE as a renewable energy resource. I may have not participated in the entire committee hearings, but I guess we really have to be extraordinarily careful into falling into another bad policy. Is renewable energy resource classification. Let me share to the group my personal experience on WTE as a young lawyer in the then Philippine National Oil Company. I had 29 years of career in the PNOC organization, and we have a group called Non-Conventional Energy Division at the time. You know, the way we pursued WTE is not a new. It's not. This is not a new advocacy. I mean, it has been in the energy policy program many years ago, even during the time of the late Energy Minister Jeronimo Velasco. You know, WTE really it addresses two concern, you know, environment and also converting the waste to energy. The technology is not new. In our position paper, I I told the committee that as far as technical expertise concerned, it is abundant the Philippines. It may have not been tapped because there appears to be no commercial undertaking really to tap the services. But you know, in PNOC at the time, we partnered with the city of the Quezon City government. In fact, for those who are in this WTE as a profession or as an occupation now, maybe I can refer you to a WTE facility which I think is still operating in Payatas, Barangay Payatas, Quezon City. Uh, if, if I'm not mistaken, I don't already exactly remember how much electricity in megawatt or kilowatt it is producing. But it was a successful project. Now, how did we pursue that WT facility in Barangay Payatas? It was a combination of foreign grants. I'm not sure which of them. Also, some locally funded assistance from the Quezon City government. But PNOC provided basically the expertise. Maybe I may suggest we've been discussing about ADB study. I've been reading about the chat group, you know, about circular economy. Maybe, Madam Chair, why don't we schedule a visit, an ocular visit of what an actual WTE facility looks like and how it operates at the moment, you know, if it is. And then maybe we can draw some experiences on what should be the current direction now of this particular project. Definitely, we will oppose the bill and probably if it becomes a law, if this will be classified as an RE project, I'm sorry, Jay Layug is around, you know, Jay, sorry, Jay. But Jay knows that ever since this paid-in tariff and paid-in tariff allowance issue comes up, we always oppose it in the Energy Regulatory Commission. Would you believe we are tied for 20 years? Maybe hindi na siya 20 ngayon, 18 na lang yata o 17. Paying feed-in tariff allowance, a project that is already paid a feed-in tariff. Dalawa po yun ha, iba po yung tariff, saka iba po yung allowance. No? Yung tariff, yun yung binabayaran mo pag may supply agreement ka with the renewable energy company, or if they are member of the WSM spot market, they bid there and then you buy their power, you pay them the tariff. But in addition to the tariff, meron silang allowance. Ito yung energy resource. Ito yung energy resource na meron siyang meron siyang tinatanggap every year, in addition to already a tariff that is already providing for his appropriate rate of return. So, I guess yung pong classification of WT as an RE and then extending feed-in tariff and feed-in tariff allowance, let's be very careful about this. In fact, I opted to really enter the chat group because ayoko pong lumampas na hindi na naman ma-record sa committee deliberation yung an opposition of the group, our group now, on this feed-in tariff and feed-in tariff allowance. If I will believe Secretary Fusi in one of his pronouncement in the past, he said that there will be no more feed-in tariff and feed-in tariff allowance, so to speak. Parang pineriod niya yan eh. And here we comes now, deliberating a very good bill, converting waste to energy, and then pagkatapos, we are trying to 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 we're trying to justify, we call it justify, we're trying to introduce the feed-in tariff and feed-in tariff allowance into the project. Yun lang, Madam Chair, and thank you very much. Maybe you can coordinate with PNOC, who's operating, who's in charge now of that waste-to-energy facility in Payatas. It's good to see how it looks like, if it's still working, and how did they do it. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, may I say a few words?
Go ahead, Jay.
Uh, um, um, Mr. Chair, just a rebuttal to the comments of my good friend Yusek Dimagiba. Without prolonging the discussions, I think we would like to suggest a separate Senate Energy Committee hearing on the feed-in tariff and the feed-in tariff allowance and the benefits that it has produced, to the consumers. I've had that debate before with the DOE. I don't think it's proper for now to debate about it, but we would be happy to present actual data to show to the general public what really has fit contributed to them.
Thank you, Jay. And I discussed it with Kong Lord, and we will have another JCEC meeting focusing on RE and what's left over in the IPIRA implementation. We will be selecting some items there that we think are very crucial in terms of consumer welfare. For example, the ARCOA issue, and through the JCEC, we will deliberate it there. We will also have some updates on the implementation of the RE law. I know for a fact, Jay, before you left DOE, you managed to complete all the guidelines, subject to complete all the guidelines, waiting for implementation. So we want to know also what's the status of those, what's left over in the RE law. Moving towards the classification of WTE to RE, and I do agree with Jay, no, that this is a very unique technology in a sense that it generates power, and it's a waste management solution. And looking at the research coming from different proponents, it seems to me that it's a very philosophical question, no, whether to classify it as RE or not. Different countries have taken different positions. Some ASEAN countries, such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and also some North Asian countries, such as Taiwan, took the position, took the philosophy that WTE is a form of RE. But of course, not all countries take that position. Some are silent, no, and you don't have position on that. But having said that, it really goes beyond just the incentives, no.
classifying as RE, classifying WTE as RE is giving flexibility to WTE and its technologies in the future. There are many WTE technologies. May anaerobic digester, mayroong methane harnessing, and there are thermal technologies. By classifying it there, we're giving the whole WTE sector more flexibility in terms of feedstock and in terms of development. But having said that, I suggested to Tim to park this first, and we will continue to consult the proponents. Tama kayo, Attorney Vic, no? During the hearings, we had two hearings on WTE. This philosophical question came in only during the submission of the position paper. It was brought up a few times, but when the submission of the position paper came about, we saw a lot of arguments in favor of classifying it as RE, particularly from, of course, the Solid Waste Management Commission and also from DOE. So kaya ho lumabas to, Attorney Vic, no? Because before, during the hearing, it was slightly mentioned, but it was never, tama kayo, it was never discussed in depth, no? So just to move forward, we will park this issue first. We will probably go back because if you go through the bill, no, the bill can actually stand alone without that classification, no. And tama si Attorney Mona, we just have to write out the incentives if necessary. Alam niyo naman ang position ng DOF ngayon. But if it's necessary, we can specify the fiscal and the non-fiscal. Dahil sa RE, marami naman non-fiscal like priority dispatch, yung RPS. So marami naman pwedeng ilagay doon. So we'll park that for now so that we can move along. And then we will have probably another lengthy discussion on this philosophical question as we close the bill.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so for the purposes of today's TWG, we'll be parking this first sentence. Anyway naman po, sabi nga ni sir, hindi naman ma-affect yung discussions sa latter part of the bill if we park this. So we'll just park this sentence, yung WTE shall be classified as another kind of RE resource. Yung ma-affect nilang actually ay yung definition ng RE resource. So we'll just park it po. Baka highlight na lang natin dyan for to indicate that we parked it. Now let's move on. So utilizing WTE, but although I think we already defined yung WTE facility, so pwede nating ibalik sa WTE facility instead of a facility utilizing WTE. Shall, letter A, okay, be both a solid waste management treatment facility, siguro for consistency lang with yung earlier natin na definition sa WTE strategy. Be both a solid waste management treatment facility and an energy production facility, whether as a power generation plant or a biofuel plant. Now, there's a suggestion from NSWMC from specifically Mr. Lau na dagdagan natin na before power generation plant, dagdag din natin refuse-derived fuel or processed engineer production plant. Whether as a refuse, whether as a refuse-derived fuel or processed engineered production plant. Tama, ayan. Okay. Okay. Be both energy production facility, whether as refuse-derived fuel or process engineer production plant, power generation plant, or a biofuel plant. So, yung comment natin dito is From the city government of Davao, they said during our hearing that there should be an express or categorical definition or declaration that WTE is allowed. And this is also consistent sa objectives sa SPN 401 that we should allow the operation of waste to energy facilities in aid of solid waste disposal and in the increase of energy production. So, do we have comments on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Paul, followed by Sir Glenn.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we didn't define technology because, as was stated earlier, technology uh, is constantly changing. As such, my question to the body is: should we have a catch-all proviso here, whether as a RFP or process engineered production plant, power generation plant, biofuel plant, among others? For example, thank you.
Yeah. What we can do is we can give a non-exclusive enumeration. So instead of whether as, we can just put such as. So that the enumeration can carry other kinds of technologies as well. Okay, Sir Glenn, apo.
Yes, ma'am. Doon sa pagdagdag ng refuse-derived fuel and process engineer production plant, dito kasi glaring na no? Unti-unti nang na-unmask na indeed, yung mga plastic talaga ang gustong gawing feedstock. Ito kasi yung mga refuse-derived fuel and most of the industries are not actually in the power generation. They are from other types of industries such as cement manufacturing. So, bakit natin ipinapasok ito dito?
Sige, Sir Chris, since the proposal is from Sir Chris from NSWMC.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the reason why we are including that is to highlight that all types of technologies are included, no? When you look at refuse-derived fuel, and it should be processed engineered fuel, PEF, no? It should be processed engineered fuel. It is not just tapping the plastic component of the waste, but rather residual component of the waste, which may also include coated paper that are non-recyclable. So again, we are just offer. In fact, in Japan, there are technologies that produce coke or cake that is fed to our power plants. No, this allows systems to be developed also, like RDF systems, which is currently being implemented in Cebu already. They are processing refuse-derived fuel as a feedstock for energy generation facilities. It may or may even not. It may or may not even be a cement plant. It can actually go to a power facility as a substitute to coal, so that you end up having a cleaner fuel source as compared to what we are using right now. That's the only reason why we're suggesting to include that. But if the pleasure of the body, you can always remove that. We're just highlighting everything that is already existing. So the addition of such as is also a good approach. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sir
Yes.
Chris. Yeah, Sir Glenn, may question lang po
Follow
ako.
up.
So consistent sa sinabi ni Paul. Maybe what we can do po, we can just add na lang yung enumeration na to. So mag-end na lang tayo and then energy production facility, comma. Tapos semicolon na po. Pwede nating i-delete na lang yung enumeration para we're not referring to a specific technology. Alam mo yan. Kasi we're not the bill is not intended to promote a specific technology naman po. We're just laying the framework for waste to energy. So that it's technology neutral, we can delete that po, Sir Glenn.
Okay. Okay.
Okay po, okay? So let me read. Build a solid waste management treatment facility and an energy production facility. Okay, now let's move on to letter B. Comply with establishment and operation guidelines for WTE facilities, which includes guidelines for pre-operation, waste acceptance, waste storage, pre-processing of waste, quality control, operational control, pollution abatement and emissions monitoring, environmental monitoring, decommissioning, closure, abandonment, and disposal of waste. We'll just add treatment and disposal of waste kasi 'di ba like yung fly ash, it needs to be treated before disposal. So lagyan na lang po natin ng and treatment and disposal of waste. Um
Similar comment pertaining to enumeration. To make it non-exclusive because we might have new processes. I recommend among others at the end or changing which includes to such as. Thank you.
it's the statement itself is the phrase itself is non-exclusive because we're just saying that it should include. These are just minimum guidelines that that DNR can actually add to.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll just read the comments po. So, Sir Chris is suggesting that after the word guidelines, yung footnote 25, we'll just say that is issued by the DNR. Tapos, yung comments natin sa footnote 26 that we just go over it. So yung sa enumeration natin, these are actually the list of topics na covered by the establishment and operation guidelines for WTE facilities in the NSWMC resolution. So parang minimum lang siya, they can add to it. Kasi the reason why na nilagay ito is because after yung small group na discussion with DNR said na maybe we can add na yung existing provision sa DAO, but we think that that's too restrictive. Baka mawala ng flexibility, so minimum lang yung nilagay natin. And this is also consistent sa sinabi sa 401 na bill ni San Tolentino that it's DNR that monitors the environmental compliance and that there has to be a list of acceptable waste. So mako-cover na ng guidelines na to. Yung sinabi naman ng No Burn Philippines and the guidelines will address this, yung where are we going to dispose the ashes from the WTE facility, tapos yung are we capable of identifying, quantifying, and monitoring dioxins, and do we have the laboratories needed and the experts needed. Ito naman po, sa guidelines, ma-address na to, but to address that comment also, pwede tayong maglagay ng capacity building na section later on. And pwede din nating i-expand yung DNR to equip them in really make sure na properly implemented yung batas na to. Sinabi din ng UPEEP that we should add sections on management of emissions, effluents, and solid residues. So we think the guidelines naman will cover that kasi generic enough naman yung guidelines. So lahat po na concerns na yon, the guidelines will cover that. Sir Chris, did you want to say anything po?
Yes, Madam Chair. I think it is important for us to clarify in this bill who issues the guidelines. No, that's why I requested the ilagay issued by the DENR. Of course, the guidelines need to consult all other stakeholders, all other interested parties. No, there was a process before the DAO came out. I agree that the DAO should not be mentioned. But I feel that it's important to include DENR to highlight the DENR issues the guidelines.
Yes. Sige Sir Chris, we can put that po. Issued by the DNR after ng word ng guidelines, issued by the DNR. But this is actually nasa responsibilities of DNR na. There's a proposal here also from PPP Center na ilagay natin sa guidelines health and safety monitoring. Wala naman pong problema, we can add that. Okay. Which includes guidelines for pre-operation. Siguro after ng environmental monitoring, lagay natin health and safety monitoring.
Comment po. Question.
Yes, Sir Glenn. Apo.
So ibig sabihin, this bill is referring to a department administrative order.
Ay, hindi po Sir Glenn. Yung sinasabi lang natin ay ito yung mga guidelines na parang the DNR, the WTE facility should comply with the guidelines issued by DANR. Tapos nilagay lang natin yung mga topics that the guidelines should include. So we used as a guide yung DAO. But of course, the law is the law will be followed. So the moment na ma-issue na to, then they need to revise the DAO to include itong health and safety monitoring po kasi wala to ngayon. And also, titingnan din natin, Sir Glenn, sa next, as a letter D, we're going to say na everything, yung WTE facility should comply with all existing laws po. We've actually enumerated that. So if may gusto po kayo, Sir Glenn, na you think kailangan issuehan din ng guideline na topic, please let us know para ma-include natin sa non-exclusive enumeration. Okay, does anyone else want something included po sa guidelines? Although non-exclusive naman po ito.
Morning, Attorney.
Yes.
Hello. Vic Molina po from UP Manila.
Dr. Molina, good morning po.
Hindi ko lang alam kung dito siya pwedeng ilagay, no? But would like to suggest that he should also comply with the EIA guidelines and yung impact assessment of the NR and the UPs. So I'm not sure if this is the right section, no? But I think in our comment from UP Manila, we suggested that prior to construction, the establishment should comply with existing EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, guideline.
Thank you. Yes, by letter D po, yung PD 1586 which refers to the environmental impact statement at nilagay din po natin yung Universal Healthcare Act kung saan makikita natin yung health impact assessment po.
Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you po. Okay, other comment, allow me to read it. Letter B, compliance and operation guidelines issued by the DNR for WTE facilities which includes, so that means it's non-exclusive. Guidelines for pre-operation, waste acceptance, waste storage, pre-processing of waste, quality control, operational control, pollution abatement and emissions monitoring, environmental monitoring, health and safety monitoring, decommissioning, closure, abandonment, and treatment and disposal of waste. Meron pa po kayong gustong idagdag? Okay na po. Anyway, if ever may maalala po kayo, please feel free to just inform us through a position paper or you can just email it to us po. Okay, now let's move on to letter C. So another responsibility of WTE facilities is to make arrangements with a sanitary landfill as a disposal site for any waste generated from its operations. So yung proposal ng DOE ay dagdagan natin ng phrase na or develop its own because DOE said that the WTE facility may actually establish its landfill. We have comments on this.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner Lau here. I'm making a suggestion to add a subsection as letter C that the WTE operator shall ensure proper handling and final disposal of bottom ash and fly ash, including residues, and conform with existing laws, rules, and regulations. No? The concerns on disposal management of residues from the facility before you go to the sanitary landfill. That should be the C now. Before you make arrangements with the sanitary landfill, you have to have an ash management program or waste management program.
Okay, Sir Chris, Sir Chris, can you please read it again slowly?
Okay, it should be sa C. You know, your C becomes C. So the WTE operator shall ensure the proper handling and final disposal of its residues. Let's put it residues para it becomes technology generic na lang. Conforming with existing laws, rules, and regulations. This addresses the concerns on ash management from incineration facility.
Okay, thank you. So that reads, Sir Chris, shall ensure the proper handling and final disposal of its residues. conforming with existing laws, rules, and regulations. Okay. Yes, Paula.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going back sub- to paragraph B, just to anchor it with section 9B on the obligations of DOH, since the enumeration would be connected. I'm just stating that for future reference, because we added some items, particularly uh, in the enumeration. Thank you.
Thank you. Later, when we go to DOH na. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, maybe no. Yes, Dr. Molina.
Suggestion lang dun sa letter C. May I suggest to include the phrase after the word waste generated, the phrase prior to operation. Prior to its operation.
Sige ba? Prior to its operation, Dr. Molina, sir, saan po natin uli ilalagay?
So, dinilit natin yon yung phrase, yung letter C. Was it...
Dinagdagan lang po natin ng isang phrase. So sa letter D na siya ngayon.
Letter D, yes. Okay, so after the word...
Operation.
Generate, prior, the word prior. After the word generated, prior to its operation, instead of the word from. Prior to.
So, Dr. Molina, ano lang po, siguro, Dr. Molina at saka Sir Chris, just for consistency, instead of waste, residue generated. Tama po ba, Sir Chris? Kasi this is the waste after that, so instead of waste, palitan natin ng residue, tapos generated from its operations, make arrangement, sige po, make arrangements.
Yep.
Okay. Sir, ano na lang po, make arrangements with a sanitary landfill or develop its own prior to its operations. Prior to its operations, as a disposal site for any residue generated from its operation, subject to style po.
Okay.
Ano na lang po, Sir Chris, maybe we can ask for a definition for residue.
Okay. Sige.
Assignment na lang po.
Yep. Okay.
Sige. I'll read it subject to style. We can further improve it kasi may repetitive words. Make arrangements with a sanitary landfill or develop its own prior to its operations as a disposal site for any residue generated from its operations. We'll improve it po. But the thought is that the WTE facility, before it starts operations, it should make an arrangement with a sanitary landfill or it can make its own sanitary landfill as a disposal site for its residues. Okay.
Excuse
Yes, Sir Glenn.
question po.
Sir Glenn, apo.
Oo, yung make arrangement with the sanitary landfill kasi it gives notion that these residues will be mixed with existing waste in a sanitary landfill. And I don't think that is environmentally acceptable.
Sir Glenn, I think ma-address yan sa ating guidelines for treatment and disposal of residue. Actually, papalitan pala. Can we go since we're referring to residue na, akit tayo sa, ayan, and treatment and disposal of letter B, pababa tayo. Treatment and disposal of residue dapat pinag-usapan natin. So, Sir Glenn, yung concern nyo po, I think that will be addressed sa guidelines for the treatment and disposal of the residue. Kasi DNR has to qualify what kind of sanitary landfill yung pwedeng lagyan ng mga residue. Tama po, Chief? gusto niyo, Sir Glenn, what we can do is we can make a reference pursuant to the guidelines issued by DNR. Gusto niyo po ba na ganoon para may additional layer of protection lang po?
Hindi ko alam pero the way it's written suggests otherwise. It's parang it should be a special site for disposal. It's not necessarily the sanitary landfill as it is right now. And baka nga magandang may invite na toxicologist para explain sa atin what this residue is, para mabigyan tayo ng proper guidance sa ganito, who could explain ano-anong klase itong mga o anong component itong residues na ito na maaring maging result ng waste to energy facilities. And we have experts here, so maybe we could invite them and how it is going to be managed properly or disposed.
Yeah. Thank you, Sir Glenn. In the meantime po, siguro Sir Chris, what's the proper term po ba? Sanitary landfill, siguro just to address the concern of Sir Glenn.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. No, I think there are acceptance criteria naman, no, as to whether sanitary landfill can accept. I understand the concern on commingling of waste in a sanitary landfill. So, pwede siguro make arrangements, okay, with a sanitary landfill on a designated cell or dedicated cell that might address that, ano? Kasi special cell yan eh. Like mass waste is also on a special cell. So just so that to make it clear lang, no? On a designated cell, a dedicated cell. Designated siguro. Make arrangements with a sanitary landfill in a designated cell. That's what I would suggest to address that concern. I do agree that your ash cannot be mixed with your other waste. So that has to be made very clear also.
Sir Chris, siguro for generic na lang po, baka we can put in the to the purposes of the TWG, pursuant to our guidelines, pursuant to our guidelines.
That also. Yep.
Baka pwede na po iyon. Pursuant to the guidelines. Yes, Sir Glenn.
Yes. Kasi if these WTO operators will make arrangement with existing sanitary landfill, there is the presumption here that they are already have capacity or they know that they have the technical know-how of handling these residues or bottom ash or whatever residues, slugs, whatever. Diba? Which I think they are not. If ever, yun nga baka merong pwedeng maging resource person dito, mag-explain how these residues being handled, no? etc. Ang hirap ma-imagine.
Sige sir, we will, kung hindi po tayo matapos today, we will see kung may ma-invite tayo, pero kung may ma-refer po kayo, that would be good. But if ever, I think we have other parang health experts here naman or from people from DNR or I guess from we have IPM and MPIC, you can discuss it, who can share with us their experience naman po. Sige, baka we can
psychologist would do
MPIC or IPM sa experience nila. Kasi sila, I mean,
hello?
Hello, yes Sir Glenn, opo.
When you mean experience, does that mean that they have ash landfill already here in the Philippines?
Ay, yun sir, tinatanong nga natin sila. But kung, tinatanong natin sila, if ever naman, IPM or MPIC? Okay. Sige, for the purposes of this TWG, ito muna Sir Glenn. Tapos let's see kung may ma-invite tayo na toxicologist sa ating next na TWG or kung may ma-suggest please let us know also. Okay, so I'll
Yes,
read
ma'am.
it now. Apo.
Yes, ma'am. I think we can suggest or refer you to anyone, to an expert. Thanks.
Okay, thank you po. Okay, so I'll read let's read letter D. Letter C tapos letter D. Akit tayo dyan, please. Okay, so letter C reads, shall ensure the proper handling and final disposal of its residues conforming with the existing laws, rules, and regulations. And then letter D will read as, make arrangements with a sanitary landfill or develop its own prior to its operations as a disposal site for any residue operations in accordance with DNR guidelines issued pursuant to this act. So subject to style, we will improve it po. And then, anyway, we'll be giving a copy to the body for further comments. Yes, Paula.
Chair. Actually, my question pertains to the use of the word existing. Right now, may addition na sentence in paragraph C. I'm concerned that existing seems to uh, trap the intent of the bill with respect to laws that can change and rules that can change. So would the word relevant be better? Relevant laws, rules, and regulations instead of existing. Thank you.
Hindi naman, pwede naman, hindi naman siya issue. So we can just change it conforming with relevant laws, rules, and regulations.
Madam Chair,
Yes po. Dr. Molina, tama ba?
we go up a little bit dun sa previous section. The one that we added the phrase health and safety.
Yes po.
So after the word monitoring, comma, may I suggest to include the word before health, occupational health and safety.
Occupational health. Okay po.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Occupation.
Okay, sige. I'll read again yung for this, punta tayo sa letter D and then let's read the entire section again. Okay? So letter D, comply with, sige, palitan natin yung existing with relevant. Comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations to include Presidential Decree number 1586 establishing an environmental impact statement system, Republic Act number 6969, otherwise known as the Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Act, Republic Act number 7638, otherwise known as the Department of Energy Act of 1992, Republic Act number 8749, otherwise known as the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, Republic Act number 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, Republic Act number 9136, otherwise known as the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, Republic Act number 9275, otherwise known as the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004, Republic Act number 9367, otherwise known as the Biofuels Act of 2006, Republic Act number 9513, otherwise known as the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, Republic Act number 11223, otherwise known as the Universal Healthcare Act, and WHO guidelines on air quality. Please note that this is not an exclusive enumeration, and please note that yung pagkakasunod-sunod nito ay based on oldest to latest. So yun lang po yung enumeration niya. So I think this addresses yung comment ng UP Manila that there should be an environmental impact assessment and an health impact assessment. Okay, may gusto pa po kayong ilagay na mga laws? You didn't include the regulations na po.
Good morning from DOJ.
Yes, from DOJ.
Kung hindi po exclusive.
Sir, can you please kindly repeat what you said? We weren't able to hear it. Nakamute po ata kayo.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Ma'am, kung hindi po exclusive yung enumeration, suggestion ko po lagyan natin ng including but not limited to.
But sige po, okay. Comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations, including but not limited to. Okay, sige po. Let's go through it po again siguro Okay, sige. We have 30 more minutes, so we'll try to go as far as we can po. Umusad naman tayo ng isang section. Okay, so again, section 5, waste to energy and waste to energy facility. A WTE facility, kasi nakapark yung ating WTE as RE resource. A WTE facility shall, letter A. Sige. Okay, a WTE facility shall, letter A, be both a solid waste management treatment facility and an energy production facility. Letter B, comply with establishment and operation guidelines issued by the DNR for WTE facilities, which includes guidelines for pre-operation, waste acceptance, waste storage, pre-processing of waste, quality control, operational control, pollution abatement and emissions monitoring, environmental monitoring, occupational health and safety monitoring, decommissioning, closure, abandonment, and treatment and disposal of residue. Letter C, WT shall ensure the proper handling and final disposal of its residues conforming with relevant laws, rules, and regulations. And letter D, comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations, including but not limited to Presidential Decree number 1586, Republic Act number 6969, Republic Act number 7638, Republic Act number 8749, Republic Act 9003, Republic Act 9136, Republic Act 9367, Republic Act 9275, Republic Act 9367, Republic Act 9513, Republic Act 11223, and WHO guidelines on air quality. Okay, if anyway, we'll send a clean copy naman to everyone. If you have further comments, please let us know. Okay, last sentence, actually second to the last sentence in this section. Okay? I think mahaba-habang usapan to, but sige. The process of incineration shall be allowed in a WTE facility, provided that it shall not emit toxic and poisonous fumes into the environment, provided further that it shall comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations as mentioned hereof. Okay, so ito yung comments natin from the Ecological Waste Coalition. So they're saying that they're against the incineration of waste. And they're saying also that the DNR lacks the capacity to monitor incinerators for emissions. And they're saying that incineration of waste will create a need for landfills, which produces toxic ash and air particulates that will still need appropriate treatment and storage. Meron din tayong comment from Mother Earth. They also oppose this. They're saying that WTE technology involves the burning of waste resulting in toxic air emissions and ash residues for a questionable amount of energy production. And of course, yung No Burn Philippines din na comment, they gave us a list of waste to energy incinerators that have been found to have adverse impacts to environment and health. Yung other comments natin ay from DNR. They're saying that WTE is legal for as long as it is not actually, yung DNR, sinabi nila that the WTE facilities must not be exempt from regulations under the Clean Air Act. Sinabi din ng DOH that it has to be compliant with existing laws, which includes public health mitigation and management plans, yung sa Universal Healthcare Act at saka sa Philippine Clean Air Act. Sinabi din ng NEDA that there's already a Supreme Court decision on this, that Section 20 of the Clean Air Act does not absolutely prohibit incineration as a mode of waste disposal. Only those burning processes which emit poisonous and toxic fumes are banned. Tapos sinabi ng Citizen Watch that if we exempt WTE facilities from the ban on incineration, it will remove the existing hurdles that prevent prospective investors. Nag-submit din si Engineer Ravenna sa atin ng commenter saying that the WTE facilities should be exempted from the ban on incineration. And DNR also told us that WTE facilities must not be exempt from regulations under Clean Air Act. And then they also repeated yung sinabi ng NEDA na yung MMDA versus HANCOM does not absolutely prohibit incineration as a mode of waste disposal, and it's only the burning processes which emit poisonous and toxic fumes. Ano po, before we start yung comments natin, so we'll follow uli yung enumeration sa ating footnotes. Ano lang po, the reason why na nakalagay ito is to once and for all give clarity whether incineration is allowed or not. Kasi 'di ba nakalagay sa Section 20 ng Clean Air Act na incineration that produces toxic and poisonous fumes are prohibited. And then this was further qualified by the MMDA versus HANCOM case na incineration is allowed for as long as it does not emit toxic and poisonous fumes. So this is actually not unique. This is already existing based on the Clean Air Act and based on the Supreme Court case. We're just saying it again. So, we will listen to the various comments. Sige, start po tayo. Ito po yung, I don't think na present yung Ecological Waste Coalition at hindi din po present yung Mother Earth. So, start po tayo with No Burn. Sir Glenn?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, aside from doon sa mga na-raise na namin, no, why we are very apprehensive of mentioning incineration. But if the proponents is actually referring to the Section 20 of the Clean Air Act, no, and you considered it already that it is not actually an absolute prohibition on the incineration process, then as long as this bill will not repeal or amend or in any way affect that Section 20 provision, then wala kaming problema. Because if proponents are indeed confident that new technologies now will not emit toxic fumes, then there is no need for repealing or amending that specific provision.
Thank you. Sir Glenn, actually, ano po, I think yung original version as filed, iba po siya from this one. That's why nakalagay sa ating amendatory clause na we're amending Section 20. But since we already restated it, this is not an amendment of Section 20 po. We're actually just restating it. Iba lang yung itsura niya.
Okay. So, for the records, no, yun lang, malinaw na this bill is not amending nor repealing Section 20 of Clean Air Act.
Yes po. I will read to you Section 20. It's actually consistent. Ano po? Incineration.
Yeah, I know the Section 20.
Yes po, I'm sure.
I also know the Supreme Court ruling that you are mentioning. Although it is just obiter dictum, then sige lang.
Sir Glenn, pag pumunta po tayo sa sa amendatory, tatanggalin po natin yung kasi I think nilagay namin diyan yung Section 20, but since hindi na natin pinapalitan, we'll remove po yung Section 20 sa amendatory.
What do you mean? You will remove what?
Yung Section 20 po sa amendatory clause ng bill na to. Kasi initially, nakalagay po sa enumeration yung Section 20 ng Clean Air Act na ina-amend siya ng bill. But since
Okay.
hindi na, papalitan po natin kasi iniba po natin yung bill as filed na po.
Okay.
Thank you, Sir Glenn. Okay, now let's listen to DNR. DNR, I think si Sir William nandito. At saka si Ma'am Fatima. Okay, no further comments na yung DNR po. Sige, let's move on to DOF. Yes, Asek.
So, just reiterate our previous position that we support the concerns raised. They are proper in relation to the contribution to air pollution. However, maybe we should look into how other countries are doing it now, because there are types of incineration where we can limit the kind of gas that it emits. So maybe we can just qualify which types of incineration are allowed and which types are not. Maybe we can only allow those that fall under what the DENR also considers as allowed under the existing rules and regulations, and also in relation to what DOE's position is, which types of facilities would produce the most number of energy from waste and which are only minimal in contribution. So maybe we should just refine definitions to make it more clear. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Asek. Okay, maybe hear from DOH. Do you have further comments po?
Hello, Ms. Chair. This is
Yes,
just to reiterate our comment. The bottom line of our comment is for the conduct of health impact assessment as stipulated under the Universal Healthcare Act. So this is in addition or within the environmental impact assessment, what has been mentioning by Dr. Molina of UP College of Public Health. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, DOE, Ma'am Ruby.
Hello, good morning. This is Director Maylin.
Hi, Director Maylin. Good morning po.
Good morning. Actually, we just would like to reiterate, the Department of Energy has issued a letter dated March 6, 2020 to Senator Win regarding our position on the waste to energy or the bill. We On the second page, if you allow me to read, no, so that I will not deviate from any meaning, no.
Yes po,
Um,
go ahead po.
we wish to emphasize that existing biomass plants or projects in the country employ direct combustion technology, wherein thermochemical processes are applied to harness energy from the traditional biomass feedstock, which is similar to the incineration or thermal treatment technologies for solid waste management. No? So further incineration or direct combustion have been used for generation to reduce waste mass and volume as well as generate electricity. As such, it is our view that the incineration technology is an efficient process in addressing the country's problem of waste disposal and provides additional electricity supply. Thus, we see no reason for concern on incineration technology, provided that toxic emissions should be properly addressed by the state-of-art emission control and captured technology with continuous emission monitoring system and compliance with the Republic Act 8749, otherwise known as the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. So that's the position of the Department of Energy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Mylene. Okay, and then last, NEDA, because I think Citizen Watch and si Engineer Ravenna are not present. Does NEDA want to add to its comment? Okay, so wala na po. So,
Madam Chair, si Yusek Pecson.
yes,
Pwede
yes,
ako.
opo.
Yes, well, technically, I'm also part of NEDA, so if I may use that association. Now, what I also wrote in the chat earlier is that what I would like to highlight that insofar as managing risks of waste to energy, it doesn't start with the WTE facility. So everything that we have discussed so far pertains to the facility. But upstream of that facility is the LGU. So unless the LGU also is complying with what it's supposed to do, then it will be very difficult for the WTE, the waste to energy facility, to manage what is not being managed by the local government unit. So I think we owe it also to the public that it's not just the waste to energy facility that is compliant, but the entire value chain is compliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yusek. We'll note that po para when we go later sa rules and responsibilities ng local government units.
Hello, maybe right now.
Yes, DLG Yusek Echeverry, is that you?
Yes.
Yes po, Yusek, go ahead.
Ako tatanungin, hindi ay LGA. Kasama ba kayo? Anyway, again, I heard that you got the stand already of the department this morning. And again, the stand of the department is against incineration. But since it was done by the legal department and was not privy to the discussions last time, last year TWG hearing, wherein it was reiterated that incineration per se will not be allowed, but incineration wherein there are standards to be followed so as not to violate the Clean Air Act. Then the department will submit to that definition as per as TWG. But again, we would want to reiterate that incineration per se might not be, again, helpful. And again, it would violate the Clean Air Act as it was mentioned by the previous speaker. Uh, I think that would be all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Yusek Echeverry. Sir, may we request if you can please kindly submit the position paper that you're referring to kasi yung nakuha po namin is actually it was communicated to us lang. Yung nakalagay lang po dito ay yung comments say it na lang po. It's signed by Attorney Pasaraba and it only discusses po yung comments nyo when it comes to the role of the LGUs. Wala pong anything on incineration. Baka Yusek, if you can please kindly transmit to us that position paper kasi hindi po iyon yung nakuha namin.
So that is from the BLDS. Okay, I'll ask the legal department to send our official stand on the matter. Thank you. I thought it was you were referring to the legal department's official stand. Anyway, thank you for explaining.
Thank you, Yusek. Sige po, we'll wait for that position paper. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, may we know speaking?
Yeah, Commissioner Lau.
Okay, Sir Chris. Commissioner Lau.
Okay, just to avoid the confusion, I was the one who sent you the comment of the ILG. The comment of the ILG was actually submitted to the commission. Kasi DILG being part of the commission, was what we did was to seek comments from the different representatives in the National Solid Waste Management Commission. So this is where this comment that I sent this morning from Attorney Raba is streaming from. No? And if you look at it, it's to the attention of Yusek Benny Antiporda. Just for clarity lang on that end.
Thank you, Sir Chris. Sige po. What we'll do na lang is we'll wait for the comment from DILG Legal kasi hindi po natin na-reflect kasi we haven't received it yet. But we reflected, I think, hindi namin na-reflect din yung this morning na binigay ng DILG but we took note of it po. But we can discuss it naman po sa next natin na TWG. Okay, sige. Let's
Madam
just...
Chair, since I have the floor, may I suggest also to include, no, you wrote their process of incineration. What I suggest is to add along with other waste treatment technologies so that we won't be perceived as promoting incineration. It's just a suggestion. Process of incineration just to add along with other waste treatment technologies.
Okay, sige. There's a suggestion here that after the word, the phrase, the process of incineration along with other waste treatment technologies.
Yes.
Technologies. Actually, sir, question lang po, Commissioner Chris. If you want it to be more generic po, if you want, we can just say na all waste treatment technologies. Or, yeah, let's just make it all waste treatment technologies kasi we've been emphasizing naman na we're technology neutral.
Yep. Madam Chair, I think
That's correct.
That phrase is very important just to clarify confusions on the ground whether incineration is allowed or not. So I think the sentence as it is stated clarifies really as to whether or not or what are the conditions of incineration in a waste to energy facility. I suggest that the wording of incineration be retained.
Sir Chris, as an alternative, siguro to address that concern, and to make sure that we're consistent, that we're technology neutral, what we can do is we can say that all waste treatment technologies, including incineration, shall be allowed in a WTE facility. Sige, let's add all waste treatment technologies including incineration. Okay, sige. Sige, thank you, Jen. Please allow me to read. All waste treatment technologies, including incineration, shall be allowed in a WTE facility, provided that it shall not emit toxic and poisonous fumes into the environment, provided further that it shall comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations as mentioned hereof. Do you have other comments how to further improve this? Okay, and then we know that, okay, no further comments. So last na lang to, we noticed lang po na itong last paragraph, actually, itong segregation, collection, transfer, storage, transport, na-include na natin to sa yung sa guidelines and na-include na rin natin lahat na laws, rules, and regulations. So we can actually delete this paragraph na po. Kasi itong segregation, collection, transfer, storage, and transport, nalagay na natin yan sa guidelines for WTE facilities. Tapos, yung compliance with existing laws, nalagay na rin natin yan sa letter, sa comply with relevant laws, rules, and regulations. So, okay po, is everybody amenable that we just delete this po? Sir Glenn, opo.
Yes, oo. Baka mas maganda rin na i-retain yan just to emphasize or reiterate. Anyway, it's just a small or short paragraph. Hindi naman siguro makaka gulo yan.
Sige po, okay. Wala namang problema. We can retain it naman po. Kasi dito, actually, yung part na to is more specific na we're saying this part is governed by this part. But, sige po. Do we have other comments on this paragraph? Okay, no further comments. So we would like to thank everyone. So we finally finished section 5. So we have section 6 hanggang section 22 pa for our next TWG. We will be sending you the clean copy today. And then if you can give us your further comments for consideration of the committee, but we would appreciate it po if ah, yung comments natin ay if you can give us your comments, if mag-additional comments kayo, yung comments natin sa ibang parts of the bill. So reminder lang po, NSWMC has the assignment of giving a definition of residue. Tapos napag-usapan na natin yung yung disposal site for the residues. Siguro Sir Glenn, if you can give us if you can refer toxicologists to us, tapos we will talk to them and request for a position paper from them as well. Para take into consideration natin yung concerns that you raised din po.
Yes, ma'am. I'll give you afterwards.
Okay, thank you. And then also, we'd like to remind DOH yung sa definition ng sharps waste. Okay, so lang po, yung assignments natin, NSWMC, definition of residue, DOH, yung sa definition ng sharps waste, and then yung toxicologist from No Burn Philippines. Please, if you have further comments, please make sure that you give it to us by Friday uli. We would really appreciate it if you give it on time para ma-integrate po natin sa bill form natin so that everybody can read it as well. Ayun po. And our next TWG will be on Tuesday next week. Teka lang. So, June 23, 9 a.m. yung ating next na TWG. So, important dates to remember, June 19, yung deadline ng assignments natin. And then, if you have further position papers. And then, June 23, Tuesday, 9 a.m., yung ating part 3 na TWG. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you kay Jen, who's the one typing and revising yung nakikita natin sa screen. So,
once again, thank you very much for your time. Kahit papano umusog ho tayo ngayong araw na ito, but I'm quite I was telling Paul nga I'm quite happy with the discussions on the bill because it's very comprehensive. In fact, there's a version in the House na approved last Congress, and I think it's also been approved this Congress, but it's not as comprehensive as this one. So thank you very much for joining in the conversation. And as you can see, we will try to accommodate all the comments and suggestion of the resource person so that we will have a fair balance and as well as a effective bill. So thank you very much po.
Thank you.